the way I see it is there's kind of two different types of course creators. There's personal brand course creators, which are, I have an existing audience. If I'm Kim Kardashian and I launch a course tomorrow, I'm going to make 10 million bucks, right? So I have an existing audience and I'm basically going, you're buying me. Fine. And if you have a large audience, that works. I would argue that the vast majority of people who create courses are actually creating personal categories. So what Dickie did is Dickie didn't say, I'm Dickie Bush and I'm the man and you all love me, so you're going to buy my course. What he said is, hey, there's no niche, there's no category for daily writing habits in public. I'm going to create that. And I think this is the thing that like no one really seems to talk about, which is, unless you're a big celebrity, you have a huge YouTube following, you have a huge Twitter following, whatever, even if that's the case, what people buy into is specificity. What problem specifically are you solving? And is that a differentiated problem in the context of the broader category? If you are specific about the problem you're solving, then you don't need a brand. You don't need an existing audience, because what gravitates people is they go, I've never seen that problem solved and I didn't know I needed that problem solved. And so that's what I'm buying into. And if that is true, then then you're good. Like but to Dickie's point, the way that you find that out is by creating lots of little things and by gathering a bunch of data. And that's what he did. And he wrote a bunch and he went, wow, of all these different problems, there's actually no public accountability daily writing habit category. I'm going to create that. And then I hop in and go, I'm just going to pour a bunch of gasoline on it. But people buy into the category. And how you know it's working, sorry, I'm flowing now, but like how you know it's working, right, is that then the market starts using your language back to you. Okay. So when Dickie launches this and he goes, hey, here's the differentiated problem. I'm naming this category something, daily writing habit. We all have a problem with it, right? And he starts getting people tweeting back at him going, I also struggle with a daily writing habit. And I also struggle with this. So the language is being mirrored back to the person. And then the person's radar should start going off and going, now we got something. So if you're, this should all be very like good news to anyone here who wants to create a course, right? It's very simple. Create 100 different mini things, see which ones get traction, double down on the ones that do. Once you figure out what the pain point is, name it and claim it, call it something, and then educate the market on why that is different than everything else. You don't need an audience to do that. You don't need to be a celebrity or personal brand to do that. It's its own thing. And then over time, right, sprinkle in the credibility, sprinkle in the audience, sprinkle in the whatever. We all walk into the game with assumptions about what we think is going to work or what we think people want. And it's not until you start practicing in public and you start publishing that 99% of the time you realize that your assumption was off in some way. And then data reveals to you what the real answer was. So Dickie starts the journey and goes, why would I ever think about a daily writing habit? Like that would never even cross my mind. And then the data reveals it to him. And now anytime I say to someone like, oh yeah, now we're building this thing called Ship 30 for 30. And I explain to them what it is, unanimously, what people say to me is, wow, I never would have thought that would have been like that big of a market. And this is that is the fundamental mistake, right? Is that when you walk in with these assumptions because you think, oh, there's this big category of people. But what you're doing is you're chasing a broad thought that doesn't really resonate with anyone specifically. Then you get into the data reveals the specific problem. You go, you know what? I'm going to cut my losses. I'm going to double down on the specific problem. And then turns out that specificity is what relates to a ton of people. Like go find expanding categories, okay? Go find expanding categories and then think about what problem or what benefit is not being educated on effectively. Figure out if people mirror that, name and claim that problem and go, this is what I do. And all of a sudden people go, wow, that's so specific. I too struggle with organizing my Notion docs. There's a whole mental model here around solve one problem, build relationships that way, and then people want you to solve other problems. That's the thing. So you hook them with one problem, and then they want to learn from you in other capacities too, or they want to be entertained by you in other capacities.